Touche, Mr. Peterson and Mr. Shapiro. Touche. I've got 2 questions. Number 1, how am I not being authentic? And question number 2, will each one of you sign one of my books?
And away we blow.
She has no life. She has no friends. She's got no clue. She's trans and mental. She watches things. She watches you.
What's up, y'all? We are Patricia Elise, the coolest trans chick on YouTube, and we are going to check out Jordan Peterson today. Don't know anything about Jordan. I've heard him mentioned. I've heard his name before. I like Sam Harris, and I've heard him mention the name, so this ought to be interesting. Let's get into it. Alright, y'all. On your mark, get set, blow.
That not happen, but people are, what would you say, doomed to their own autonomy. But I'm not saying words that other people want me to say. And the idea of compelled speech, it's like the bill was this much about gender.
Right.
And it was this much about, right. Oh yeah, the government's going to tell me what to say. Hey, but now they're regulating what therapists can say, therapy sessions.
This is interesting because to me, the problem with a lot of this is less a free speech issue, even though I'm on the same page with you. Mm-hmm. And to me, it really is a fundamental truth issue, meaning that, yeah, you're trying to force me to say something I don't
Goody, Ben Shapiro.
want to say, but to me the fact that what you're trying to force me to say is so innately opposed to the good is the problem. Like you could try. I would have objections to you forcing me to say that I like a particular movie, right? It may not be true. I don't like the particular movie. It would be bad if you tried to force me to say that. But the level of passion that I have for issues like this one really go to the fact that I think the fundamental good of humanity relies on basic acknowledgments of biological truth, especially when it comes to gender. And anybody who's ever dealt with children, I find myself getting, if I look at my own political evolution, I would say that when I grew up in a religious home, so that means that pretty conservative.
Does it though, Ben? Does it really?
And then you go to college and you're living by yourself and you're not married, you don't have kids. You tend to become a little bit more libertarian, which is like, okay, let everybody do whatever they're going to do and it's not going to bother me. And then you have kids and you realize that there's a pool in which we are all swimming. And that pool is going to define...
Virginia.
Exactly. Like my kid, it's going to determine how my kid lives. And I want my community to reflect some of my values because I don't want my kid to live in the toxic sludge that you are creating for my kid. I don't want you indoctrinating my kids in bullshit about whether
yes, exactly.
a boy can be a girl or a girl can be a
People will say, well, I'll exceed, but not for my children.
Yeah.
And that's what Virginia demonstrated. It's like, you can come after me, but you come after my kids, and that's a whole different story.
It's so fundamentally opposed to everything true, and the fact that and that's the insistence. The insistence isn't that people be treated humanely or be treated decently. The insistence is that your vision of yourself be reflected by me in defiance of baseline reality and in order to redefine how society as a whole works.
Well, a lot of it's murky thinking. If someone asked me, do I believe that there are gender fluid people? I would say yes. And I would say a young man who's gender fluid, I know what he's like temperamentally. He's high in agreeableness. He's high in neuroticism. So he has a feminine temperament. He's more interested in people than things. And he's extremely high in openness. And so his temperament is fluid. He's creative, and so he's one thing one day and one thing the next. And his fundamental temperament is tilted towards the feminine. But that doesn't mean he's not a man.
Right, exactly.
So it's murky thinking. So
that's exactly right.
It's certainly the case that 1 out of 10 women, now it depends on where you put the cutoff, say, but you could say with reasonable certainty that 1 in 10 women has a masculine temperament and 1 in 10 men has a feminine temperament. And so that's a lot of people. And those people...
Touche, Jordan Peterson. Okay, I don't think anybody's trying to argue. I'll get to it. Oh, sorry.
Especially if they're also creative. Well, they're kind of at a loss in relationship to what to do with their identity because they're pulled. First of all, they have a hard time catalyzing their identity. Creative people have a hard time catalyzing it. It's like the definition of creativity. They're protean. And so there have been people who play at the edges of gender identity forever. And fair enough. And sometimes that's even admirable if it's done in a sophisticated way. And it's charismatic. So you see it in Mick Jagger, you see it in David Bowie, you see it in people like Madonna as well, because Madonna had a hard edge, that was very masculine. And all the Marvel superhero women have a hard masculine edge. And so we find that charismatic because those people are also integrated. But the notion that there's such a thing as gender, that's not right. There's variability in personality and temperament. And the idea that there's no such thing as biological sex, that's just insane.
It's insanity. They've abstracted gender from sex and then read gender back into sex as more important than sex. It's
well, and then why insist upon the biological modifications?
Right.
If there's no such thing as sex, it's like, well, then just act out your role.
Right.
Leave your body alone because it's irrelevant anyways. Well, it turns out it's not irrelevant. You have to go through the surgical transformation, which is a pretty dramatic answer to a question that for 99% of people who are ambivalent about their gender identity would be best solved without surgical intervention.
Yep.
And then so now in Canada, because they banned conversion therapy, it's now all affirmation therapy.
Right.
There's no such thing as affirmation therapy.
Right. No, it's insane. I mean, the semantic game that was used in order to say, well, conversion therapy, which was at one time using electric shock to treat homosexuals, and saying that that's the same thing as you have a gender confused 12-year-old.
Look, I had a 14-year-old kid who was a client of mine, and he was in the mid stages of puberty. He was a pretty creative kid. Agreeable kid as well, right? And that's important. So he had a bit of a feminine temperament. And that also meant he could be pushed around fairly easily. Well,
Sorry to pause it again. What if one of these fellas ran across me and didn't realize that I was transgender? Well, they just thought I was a natural woman. They wouldn't even know they were talking to a transgender person if they didn't know. So what would be the issue?
was an aggressively gay guy in his school, was hitting on him and trying to convince him that he was gay. Well, he didn't know. So he wanted to talk to me about it. It's like, well, I was going to tell him. What the hell do I know about this kid?
Exactly.
You know, and I wanted to hear what his problems were and how it might be sorted out, what he wanted. And like that's what you do in therapy, is you help people sort out their problems. Now this idea is you come to me with an axiomatic claim, whatever it is about your identity, and my job is to rubber stamp it. It's like, I'm not a therapist then. So this is not only insane, this insistence. Like, I like to think of truth, untruth, and anti-truth, right? And the notion that therapists affirm is an anti-truth. Because, look, let's say you come to me and you say, you have a proposition about yourself, and I say, no, I'm your therapist. No, that's wrong. It's like, that's not good therapy. But neither is you have a proposition about yourself, and you're disturbed enough to come to a therapeutic session, and I say, yes, you're right. It's like, I don't know if you're right. And if you're so right, why are you here? Like, what are we talking about if you're already right?
It's a destruction of basically the only form of therapy that we know to work.
Yes,
cognitive behavioral therapy. It's all about saying that
so are the rest of them. They're all this is one of the things that's interesting about clinical psychology. Every single school of psychotherapy is predicated on the idea that free expression of thought or the free transmutation of behavior is curative. And it's true with cognitive behavioral therapy, just like psychoanalytic therapy. It's all the same thing. And also the other axiom of therapy is voluntarily expose yourself in measured doses to what you're afraid of. And so that's an interesting thing, because the psychoanalysts believed when the behaviorists first came up with exposure therapy, they had it formulated wrong. They thought you learn to be afraid. So you're normal, and then something hurts you, and then you learn to be afraid of it. That's wrong. You're always afraid, except when you learn not to.
This is the authentic me. I don't fear it.
So they had it exactly backwards neuropharmacologically, and it really matters. This matters. That doesn't mean you can't learn some fears. You can, but mostly you unlearn terror. Right? So children are afraid to get away from their mother. It's because they're afraid of the entire world. Well, you have to learn how not to be. And you don't learn that by habituation, because that was the idea. So you take someone who's afraid, they've been conditioned to be afraid, you expose them to what they're afraid of, and then you have them do relaxation exercises so they counter condition. Well, then it was discovered and they don't have to do the relaxation exercises. It's like, oh, well, it still works, just exposure. It's like, well, they get less afraid when you expose, because their fear habituates. Like, so then the psychoanalyst said, well, if they get less afraid of that particular thing, the symptoms are just going to substitute, because that fear of an elevator, say, was reflective of a deeper fear of death. Had a client I exposed to an elevator, the doors open, she said, that's a 2. It's like, and her fantasy about the elevator was, it was a place she was going to die in of a heart attack. Well, people were discomforted and, what would you say, made contemptuous of her foolishness while she was suffering and dying. So social alienation and death, that was the elevator for her. So we expose her to the elevator. What does she learn? Not to be afraid of the elevator. No. She learns she can tolerate those fears. She learns to be brave. And so the psychoanalysts were they were diametrically wrong, because if you expose someone to anything they're afraid of, effectively they get less afraid of everything, right? And so that's partly why psychotherapy is curative in that manner, is that people discover that they're bigger than their fears. They don't discover that the fears are trivial.
I think that the cult of authenticity is going to be the destruction of all psychotherapy, and then, because if the cult of authenticity is that your true authentic feelings are what makes you you, then the attempt to make you brave in spite of your fears is a suppression of your fears. It's almost like a Freudian analysis of you're suppressing your sexual desire, and this is not full authenticity.
Yeah, right. Why isn't the fear you?
It's a fantastic thing that I am intellectually declined, because that took some brain power to keep up with. I just hit my elbow and that hurt. Like, they are some high speakers, if you know what I mean. Anyways, how am I not being authentic though? Why am I doing a British accent? Fuck all that. How am I not being authentic? What should I do to be authentic? Is it the way I look? I should look differently and then I'm being authentic? Because even if I had a buzz cut right now, a neck tattoo, and I was wearing a wife beater, nothing else would be different about me besides the way I look. Okay, so I already know how Ben Shapiro feels. I've seen him a few times. I already know his stance on the whole thing. That's a good question that I posed earlier. Okay, say they ran across me and they just thought I was a regular run-of-the-mill, born with a vagina woman. What would happen? What if they didn't know I was trans and they ran across me? They wouldn't pay me any mind, we would they go on about their way and I'd go on about mine. Maybe say hi or something. I'm a big fan, Mr. Peterson, or something like that. No, I probably wouldn't say that. But if they didn't know I was trans, nothing at all would happen. What is the goal of a trans person? What is the whole, when you boil it down to its simplest thing, what is the ultimate end game by being trans? In my opinion, you know what it is? Changing genders. Changing sex, right? You're going from either male to female or female to male. That is what it is. That's what it means. That's what we are doing. Changing sex, okay? A lot of people don't think it's possible, but a lot of people do. Myself included. I think it is very possible. That's what I did. When you change sex, you are no longer the sex you used to be. Aside from maybe chromosomes or whatever, internal and bullshit. Maybe there, my chromosomes show. Can you see my chromosomes right now? Really? So no, you see, I don't think we are not being I do not think we are not being authentic by being this way. I think the opposite. I think we are being very authentic. I think we are trying to match the way we look to the way we authentically feel. If you are a person like me and you spend years upon years of your life not feeling like you were born in the right body, the right gender, then you do something about it and you change genders to fit how you feel. So what? Okay? Am I hurting people by doing this? Who am I hurting? How am I hurting you? Please send me your grievances. Besides the fact, don't know, just because you don't like trans people, that's not a valid grievance. Guys, that's really all I got for this one. I gotta kind of keep it short and sweet, but yeah. It just seems like he was going on about a bunch of mumbo jumbo that I just kind of, whatever, okay? I kind of, you know, understood where he was trying to get at and stuff, but he's just one of those. So, whatever, I see him all the time. I hear him all the time. I'm sorry, but, you know, we're not going anywhere. All of us trans freaks are not going anywhere, so tough titty, deal with it. Guys, I love y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one. Goodbye.